we held last week, which would require drug manufacturers to establish a stewardship program for the collection and disposal of unwanted pharmaceutical drugs. And we are going to also be looking at waiving the reading and fixing December 20th for adoption. And I'm going to turn it over to Dan Petticord. So,
thank you very much. I will do my best to be very brief. We are pleased to be before you this morning to reintroduce the Safe Drug Disposal Ordinance. The changes made from the board's direction last week were the inclusion of over-the-counter medications, and Linda's done a very nice job detailing out how enforcement would work in the ordinance. And so those are the two substantive changes in the ordinance.
And we appreciate all of the work that went into that, because we know both County Council and your office had to work very closely and very quickly to get that information together so that we could include the non-prescription drugs into this. I have several speaker cards, so I'm going to go through those unless there are staff questions or board questions or comments before. Seeing none, let's go right into our public speakers. You will have 2 minutes each. First, Andrea Ventura. Thank you, and she is from Clean Water Action.
Good morning. As you said, my name is Andrea Ventura, and I'm here on behalf of Clean Water Action. We have about 55,000 members in the Bay Area, including in this county, and I'm here on their behalf. We want to tell you that we support passing this ordinance today with the inclusion of the over-the-counters and the development of an enforcement mechanism. Our reasons are simple. Over-the-counters also pose a threat to human health and safety. They cause serious environmental harm. And most importantly, our members want that. They want to be able to dispose of all of their medications in a proper and sound, environmentally safe manner. We also would suggest that this is actually protective of the county's liability, because you don't want to open up the can of worms of things going into the bin that the ordinance does not allow for. And so I think there's actually a legal protection about including them and taking a comprehensive approach. So we want to thank the work that's gone into this and support that. Where we're going to really need the board's help and the county's help is to be diligent as this goes into implementation. We have had the experience at Clean Water Action with our allies of reading over the implementation plans for other counties, and we want to make sure that pharma is actually held accountable to really implementing this in good faith, and that will include making sure that they are reaching out to pharmacies and hospitals, not just focusing on law enforcement, which tends not to be the most popular site for householders who are dropping off drugs, not always the most convenient, and continues the burden on a public entity. We also want to make sure that the implementation plan does not send mixed messages to the public. We've seen this attempt before, saying that, yes, here's our program, but you can also throw this stuff in the trash. So I think that's where our emphasis needs to be moving forward. We're here to help get the message out to our members in the county, and we want to thank you and hope that you will pass this ordinance today.
Thank you so much for being here. Melody LaBella, coming from Central San.
Good morning. We're the wastewater service provider for Central Contra Costa County. My agency recognized decades ago that keeping toxics out of our waste stream was important, so we invested in our household hazardous waste collection facility and launched our program in 1997. In 2009, we tested the waters on our pharmaceutical collection program by conducting a one-year pilot with the county sheriff's office, who hosted 2 bins in Martinez, and the city of Walnut Creek, who hosted a bin in their police department. And Central San customers paid the bill for the cost of disposal. The results of that pilot told us that we should keep going, so we continued to grow our program, ultimately partnering with 13 law enforcement agencies in Central Contra Costa County. As I mentioned last week, we've now collected almost 100,000 pounds of unwanted medications. The weakness of our program is twofold, and that first, our law enforcement officers are busy doing their day jobs, and they have plenty of work to do. And so they can't devote the resources needed to oversee a program that can collect controlled substances. So our program cannot do that. And those are arguably the most troublesome medications in terms of the opioid addiction crisis our society is currently facing. This is one of the many reasons a safe drug disposal ordinance is needed in Contra Costa County to expand the types of locations available for county residents to dispose of their medications, including controlled substances. I would like to commend the board for their strong action last week and to the county staff members who were able to quickly bring forward a modified ordinance now that adds over-the-counter medications, strengthens enforcement, and adds penalties for noncompliance. Bravo.
Okay.
In particular, I would like to recognize Mr. Dan Petticord, whose passion on this topic is obvious, and to Mr. Michael Kent, who has spent years on this issue, leading the charge to coordinate efforts across the county in developing solutions for safe drug disposal. And speaking of people who have worked on this issue for years, I would like to acknowledge and thank Supervisor Pifo for carrying the torch on this issue. Whether it was showing up at a police station on an early morning to promote a DEA collection event, being a host and introducing our Contra Costa County Safe Medicine Disposal Forum, or co-starring with an operator in our video about the importance of safe medicine disposal filmed in the middle of a wastewater treatment plant, you've become a veritable expert on the need for safe medicine disposal and can speak to it like the best of us. I'm so pleased you were here to bring this forward as one of your final actions in your service to Contra Costa County. It's been an honor to work with you. And of course, Supervisor Pifo is only one vote. So I'd like to thank and acknowledge the entire board for recognizing the importance of this issue and for your support of this ordinance. Thank you for your leadership.
Okay, thank you. Angela Lowry, who we followed by Sue Stevenson and Heidi Sanborn.
Chairwoman Anderson, good morning, Supervisors. My name is Angela Lowry. I'm the Public Information Manager at Delta Diablo. We are a mid-sized wastewater treatment facility, resource recovery agency, serving nearly 200,000 people in the cities of Pittsburgh, Antioch, and Contra Costa County, Bay Point. We are also the lead agency managing the Delta Household Hazardous Waste Collection Facility, serves 97,000 homes in East Contra Costa County. We are currently, 2015, 2016, we had a 16% participation rate. That means that we've got a lot of underserved customers in our area. We take back pharmaceuticals. We took back 6,172 pounds in the 2015-2016 year. And I will tell you that our board of directors in 2009 adopted an ordinance supporting an extended producer responsibility. And we encourage all manufacturers to share in the responsibility for eliminating waste through minimizing excess packaging, designing products for durability, reusability, and the ability to be recycled, using recycled materials in the manufacture of their products, and providing financial support for the collection, processing, recycling, or the disposal of used materials. We do support the comments listed in the coalition letter with all other agencies, and as compared to the other 6 adopted ordinances in the Bay Area, that unlike those, Contra Costa is silent on the disposal method and could possibly leave that open to interpretation, and we do have concerns on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Sue Stevenson, followed by Heidi Sanborn, followed by Steve Winsley.
Good morning. Excuse me. I am the Community Affairs Supervisor at Dublin San Ramon Services District. We provide water, wastewater, recycled water services in the Doherty Valley area and the old village of San Ramon. So we also serve Alameda County, but I'm here because of this wonderful ordinance. I'm going to start my comments by thanking you, Mary, for being such a wonderful advocate. This is so important. It's so vital to what we do. So kudos to you, and I'm sorry you're leaving, and kudos to the rest of you for supporting this bill. It's very, very important, but I want you to do one more thing. That's the way it always is, right? One more thing. And the concern is how the pharmaceuticals implement their stewardship organization. Because right now what they're doing is it as a 501c6. This easy fixes require that they implement this as a 501c3. Because you want them to be considering the public good. You don't want them lobbying on behalf of their own issues. So that's my final comment. Thank you very much for doing this.
Okay, we'd like to invite up Heidi Sanborn, followed by Steve Winsley and Patty Hoyt.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. I'm Heidi Sanborn with the California Product Stewardship Council, and I was here last week, and we're very, very pleased to see this ordinance include the over-the-counter drugs, and thank you for your leadership in doing that, and to council and staff for doing it in such short order. Last year, we got a grant from the Rose Foundation to put 3 medicine bins in with Delta Diablo. One of them is in Supervisor PIFO's office. And you've heard that they're highly successful, but we just need more of them. We have learned that people will use these bins much more if they're at pharmacies and hospitals than at law enforcement. A lot of people don't like to go to law enforcement, unfortunately. They're afraid to go there, or they have issues. They don't want to be on camera. So we found in San Francisco only 7% of the medicines coming in are coming in through law enforcement, and most are coming in through pharmacies and hospitals. So we would encourage you to look at maybe switching the language so it's less onerous on law enforcement and really adding those hospitals, because Eden Hospital in Alameda is collecting more than any of the other facilities that they have at this point. There's a lot of momentum around this issue. Last week, after your hearing, Pierce and Kitsap counties in Washington adopted this EPR ordinance for pharmaceuticals, and Scott Valley in Santa Cruz adopted an ordinance for both medicines and sharps. So, and we also have good news that 86 bins are now in King County. We put 14 more in Santa Clara. The pharmaceutical industries will take over with their ordinance, and 5 more in Monterey, and they added 9 bins in Alameda County the drug companies are paying for. We also heard that, unfortunately, an incest CEO and their staff were charged with bribing doctors to prescribe fentanyl for off-label uses. And according to the FBI's Harold Shaw, quote, in doing so, they contributed to the growing opioid epidemic and placed profit before patient safety. So we urge you to continue down this path, adopt this ordinance. These industries should help pay and internalize these costs for the epidemic, unfortunately, they've helped create. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Steve Lindsley, followed by Patty Hoyt, and her partner in crime, Jamie Rich. So thank you. Not really in crime. They just traveled together working on alcohol and other drug issues.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for your leadership in strengthening this ordinance. I'm here today on behalf of West County Wastewater District in support of the amended ordinance. Our district has taken the initiative to host a drug take-back bin in their own office in Richmond, but by itself, it's not able to do the job. It needs to be more convenient to turn drugs back in, but this ordinance will increase safe and convenient access for residents of Contra Costa County to get the excess drugs out of the home, out of the sewers, out of the environment. And we really think that it would be great if you could use the water and wastewater service providers as supporters as the county moves forward to get all the cities in the county to implement this model ordinance themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay, Patty, Jamie, and finally, Nablin Sher, it looks like, or Nabila Sher. So, Patty, please, go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm here representing the Contra Costa County Medicine, Education, and Disposal Safety Coalition. As you might have heard, that tail end is disposal safety. So we are very, very pleased that you all are considering this ordinance for the safe disposal of a method for us to get rid of the unwanted and potentially dangerous medications that could get in the wrong hands of abusers, additionally into our environment, if you've heard about, as you've heard from all the others. I'm here to kind of address the prevention side of it. One of the ways to keep them out is to give everybody access to a safe way to dispose of them. I so appreciate that you included the over-the-counter meds, because that can be just as dangerous as controlled substances. I'd just like you to consider, I know you talked about this last week, perhaps looking to amend it to include the entire county, not just unincorporated, because I think that all residents need access to an easy way to dispose of controlled substances. In our law enforcement offices, they're not allowed to take controlled substances. So it's important for everybody to have a place to take these, prescription drugs, the opioids that are contributing to an epidemic in our country. So I really appreciate that. And I encourage your support of the ordinance, but I do want to thank Supervisor Pifo for the long and hard work you've done. It's been a long road, and you were not to be deterred, so thank you for that. And I do thank the whole board for their continued support of the work of prevention efforts that we do regarding alcohol and other drug services. So thanks so very much.
Thank you so much for being here, Patty. Thank you, Jamie, and then Nabila Sher following, and then I do not have any other speaker cards on this item.
Hello, thank you. I'm also here representing the Contra Costa Meds Coalition. And we've been hearing about this ordinance for well over a year. We keep getting updates, and I want to also thank Supervisor Pifo for spearheading this ordinance. In prevention, we're all about reducing access of unwanted drugs to decrease abuse. And the best way to do this also is to make it as easy as convenient for consumers to do so. This would be like one-stop shopping. They would not have to find another place to take back their drugs. I've manned quite a few take-back days, and we have lots of people coming in, which is great, but just about every other person says they did not know that they could drop them off at their police departments any day of the week. So there's a lot of uninformed consumers out there. So when they go to their pharmacy and they see, oh, I can bring it right back here, that can only help to reduce access. I also would love to see it expanded to not only unincorporated, but incorporated. It's great that over-the-counter meds are also included, because we all know those have definitely lead to overdoses in both underage and adults. And I, too, want to thank the full board for their support of our work in prevention. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, Nabila, and hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is Nabila still here? Do you wish to say anything, or do you just wish to say you're in support? Thank you. Just in support. Thank you so much. Okay, we will bring this back to the board for discussion. For those of you who were not at our hearing last week on this item, we had a very, very extensive discussion about the details of it, the implementation, how it might be brought forward so that we could encourage cities to also participate in this. So if we have an abbreviated discussion, it's not because we're not giving it full discussion. The big issue that we brought it back this week was really on the issue of whether or not our ordinance would include non-prescription drugs, your over-the-counter painkillers, cough medicines, whatever else might be relevant. So Dan, let's bring it back to you. Do you have anything else you wish to highlight? And then I'll bring it Supervisor Pifo, followed by Supervisor Mitchoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan, did you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything additional.
Okay. I just want to thank Dan and Linda Wilcox and County Council for, as has already been recognized, a quick turnaround, a beefing up essentially of the ordinance, and want to thank my colleagues for their emphasis on inclusion of the over-the-counter drugs. And it's something that we struggled with through the working group process, but I'm pleased that we were able in the end to get that added. I want to continue to seek, even though I won't be here, I know with your leadership of this board and Supervisor-elect Burgess, to monitor implementation. Hopefully we have adoption today, but monitor implementation 6 months, 9 months. I'd like to have the board come back and visit this. Assure the disposal methods are working if they should or could be adjusted or amended. The stewardship organization, maybe that's something County Council can look at, 501c3 versus a 501c6. I'd like to have some consideration given to that request. We do have support from the Alameda Contra Costa Medical Association, as well as the Hospital Council of Northern and Central California for this ordinance. There has been a request that the hospitals be included in the engagement for possible disposal locations. I'd like to have that looked at as it comes back. The Sharps, we heard that last week, the Sharps inclusion, how that could be possibly folded into this action. I'd like to have that looked back at this review, 6 to 9 months. And certainly the city is adopting it, and that's going to be sort of a roadshow program. My colleagues at the mayor's conferences that occur every month next year, and maybe Supervisor Glover, with your chairmanship next year, that might be something that you can work on with your team. But I agree, as much as we can get the jurisdictions on board, this problem doesn't only affect unincorporated communities, it certainly affects every community within our county, and I agree that they should all be on board if possible. So there are some loose ends, there's no question, and as with anything, initial implementation might have missed a few things. I think a 6 or 9 month review would be able to address that, and anything else that comes up in the meantime. But lastly, to also include a public awareness campaign. I'm sure our Contra Costa television folks would be happy to help develop a public awareness campaign on where these sites are, what the availability is beyond the county's, the county's ordinance. Obviously, we've heard some other local jurisdictions
locations in West County and East County, and we know there are some in Central County, whether they're law enforcement or sanitation agencies. There are other locations. We should be able to communicate that information to the public. So, Madam Chair, I know Supervisor Mitchoff has comments.
Actually,
but
she's rescinded her comments, or do you want them back?
I just want to second the motion that Mary.
Okay, then let's have that motion.
So, Madam Chair, I would move introduction of the ordinance 2016-24, which would require drug manufacturers to establish a stewardship program for the collection and disposal of unwanted prescription drugs, and
waive the reading, and we'll fix December 20th.
Yes, I'm just reading the language here. Just want to make sure we had over-the-counter as well, not just prescription, but it's not in this direct language. And waive the reading, as you said, and fix December, well, actually it would be 20th. So I'm looking at an old, I think I'm looking at last week's, my apologies, but September 20th for adoption, with inclusion, Madam Chair, of my request for those items to be considered in a review. Let's say 9 months. I think 6 months might be a little.
I think the staff report says in July.
So, yeah,
so 6 months.
In July.
I believe we could give a decent report back in 6 months.
Perfect.
Then we'll
Let's
leave
do
it as that. Thank you.
Okay, and I've got your second. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously.
And Madam Chair, one more comment. The community has been very supportive of this, as you heard. They're actively out there every day, from nonprofits, community organizations, to local governing agencies. As I said, the sanitation agencies. They've done great work. The work can continue under this board's leadership and cooperation and collaboration with all of those folks. But those folks were at the table in the drafting of this and the culmination of this, and it has been a lot of patience that we've asked so that to receive, so that we could make sure it was as right as possible. And again, has been recognized, Dan Pettigord helped carry the ball over the goal line, and with that, we all win. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, well, thank you. And I did have our cameraman give me a little note. His diabetic cat, he has needles from giving injections to his cat, and he takes them to the Alamo substation to get rid of his sharps. Many of our fire departments, as well as police departments, do accept your needles and sharps. We don't want those going into the landfills either, and that's a whole other topic. But again, we appreciate all of the advocacy that's taken place. We are going to move on to item D5. This is an item authorizing 2 very minor lot line adjustments of a 0.8 acre agricultural preserve boundary